I am back and I'm really excited about my guest today. I have been thinking about this all week. My very special guest for the third time, I think, is Harry W. Carpenter, and he is the author of The Genie Within, Your Subconscious Mind, How It Works and How to Use It. And I love this man so much because he has been studying and teaching this subject of the subconscious mind, which I am so intrigued by, for I think 60 years. And so if anybody knows about the subconscious mind, he does. And so I want you to really open up your spirit, open up your heart, and really just get ready for a shift and a change in your life. So, Harry Carpenter, welcome back to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
Well, thank you, Constance, and thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on your program.
So, what
And
have
I,
you?
I
What,
believe, actually, this is the fourth time.
the fourth time, you're right, you're right. And so, Harry, you are 84 years young. And what have you been up to lately since the last time you were on the show?
Well, actually, I've become an artist. Well, not an artist. I'm a painter. I just got this yen to express myself, and one day I just bought all the equipment, opened up a studio, and that's what I've been doing. Uh,
Ah.
I think it was something that just had to come out. Anyway, I'm enjoying it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of.
And so, Harry, now your book is in how many languages?
It's in 9 languages. It's been out 10 years now,
Uh,
and it's pretty steady. Sales are pretty steady. It's done very well in Asian countries. Uh, in Taiwan, as last I heard, it was over 60,000 copies.
wow. I mean, did you ever believe it's just so powerful? And whenever I'm walking, I have listened to your podcast where I recorded you over and over and over again. And Harry, every time I listen to it, I'm like, how did I miss that? So today we're going to be going back to the basics of the subconscious mind, what it is, and how to use it. So Harry, why should anyone or someone be interested uh, in his or her subconscious mind?
Well, this has always puzzled me that most people, are not because they're unconscious of it, so they don't think about it. But in reality, by at least or around 90% of our behavior and our decision making originates in the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. And I know people are thinking, well, I'm aware of everything that I decide. I'm aware of what's going on. Yeah, that's the 5 or 10%. But there's a lot going on underneath the surface, and it's important to know about it. Another reason, it's bigger and more powerful. Your subconscious mind has millions of more computational power than your conscious mind. It's faster. And importantly, we are a creature of our habits, many of our habits, and many of those habits were ingrained in our subconscious when we were children or even when we were babies. And those habits are no longer applicable now that we are adults. I'm thinking of, for example, impatience, uh, poor eating habits, or even phobias that were developed at an early age. And lastly, and importantly, your subconscious is always seeking goals. Now, the question is, who's giving it these goals?
Mm.
Are you giving it the goals, well thought out goals, or do they come from relatives, parents, friends, and even televisions? So it's an important factor to work out your own goals.
Wow, I love that it's always seeking goals. And so if somebody doesn't have any goals, it'll just keep defaulting back to those old goals that people may not want in their lives anymore.
When I am teaching the class, uh, that's the first thing I have the students do is take out a pencil and paper and write down your goals, short term, midterm, and long term. Put it away, look at it occasionally, but make sure that you have set goals in your subconscious mind. Otherwise, it's haphazard. You don't know
Wow.
what you're seeking. And remember the
That's
quote from Emerson: "Be careful what you wish for you will surely get it."
mm, that's powerful. So Harry, what can the subconscious mind do for us?
Well, it's almost, I won't say infinite, but many things. Uh, it can lead us to success in whatever we do. I'm convinced that successful people use their subconscious mind much more than the average person, whether they know they're using it or not. But successful people are usually have definite goals. They have a target that they are working towards. They
Hmm.
are directed. They're more focused and even more intuitive. Another factor is health. It's uh, in fact, it's a new science, psychoneuroimmunology. It's been proven, and it doesn't get much publicity anymore. But the mind and the body are connected, and the mind communicates with every cell in your body, and every cell responds. So there's two-way communication going back and forth. And an excellent book that explains this is Molecules of Emotion by Candace Bird. And
Mm.
yeah, that's there are habits. You can change habits that I spoke of before. If you have a bad habit, you can reduce stress. Sleep is another important thing.
Wow.
People don't realize it, but I'm sure maybe it's even happened to most of us. We get 8 hours sleep and we wake up and we're tired.
Yeah.
That's because we didn't relax those inner core muscles. In order to totally relax and allow your body to regenerate and rejuvenate itself, you need to relax all those little muscles that allow the blood to go through those little blood
Through the
capillaries.
arteries. Mm-hmm.
And that is a subconscious process. That's an involuntary muscles. So you have to learn how to really relax. That's an important factor. Physical skills, uh, uh, sports, it's almost mandatory. I think that's the one field now that
Mm-hmm.
really accepts the mind-body relationship and the need for the understanding the subconscious mind. Uh, you you cannot do a sport, a function in a sport, with your conscious mind. You have to relax and let the subconscious mind do it. Uh, Students can improve their grades, and what's great about all this, Constance? It's all effortless. Effort is a conscious mind activity. So if
Wow.
you're going to use your subconscious mind, you have to let it do its work. You have to let it do it naturally, and that is effortless.
That's amazing because so many people are trying really hard to change their subconscious programming.
It's effortless. And yes, uh, may I just point out something? There are one-word affirmations that I was hoping to get to later. But one-word affirmation is try. When you try to do something, what do? You try and try again. To
Mm-hmm.
try is to fail. So that there is always a better word than try. If you try to hand me a book, you don't hand me a book. You try to hand me a book, but you don't hand me a book, right?
Right.
So when I used to teach class, I would give this lecture about try, and invariably somebody would come up and say, you know, I've been made this affirmation up, and I try so hard, but it just doesn't work.
We get that. Wow. The
That's a word
subconscious.
that's very difficult. You will find that people use that over and over again during the day.
Right. Sometimes when my clients say, well, I'm going to try to do that, I'm like, you need to take that word out of your vocabulary.
Right. If you have a friend that says they'll try and help you, they come over and help you, and one that says I'll come over and help you, and that one of them you can depend on, the other most likely isn't going to show up.
Oh, that's so powerful. So, what are some examples of what the subconscious can do? What can it do?
Well, we just went over quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
what it can do. Some examples are, if any, I think most people have seen stage hypnotists, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is the most dramatic thing. I've seen a stage hypnotist at the county fair here, and it's just astounding what they can do, what people do just based on a suggestion. For example, I saw a man, the hypnotist said, "You just came back from another planet, and why don't you tell us about your visit?" And this man just started describing his visit. And this is in front of hundreds of people. I would wager that the average person asked that question and looked out over hundreds of people would be tongue-tied.
Right.
But and just went on and on and on about it. He could even speak their language.
Hmm.
So we can, our subconscious mind is capable of so much. Strength is another thing. Uh, there was on Johnny Carson's program once. There was a mentalist refused to call himself a hypnotist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't like that word either because it has so many bad connotations, and nobody really knows what hypnosis is. If you Google it, I mean, there is don't really know what it is. But anyway, Prescott called himself a mentalist, and he suggested that Johnny Carson could become rigid, and they suspended him across two chairs, put his heels on one chair, his head on another, and he remained rigid. And I believe it was Bette Midler sat on his stomach, and
Wow.
he remained rigid. And that's something you cannot normally do. And
Mm-hmm.
don't do it at home because you can strain something.
Right.
Our subconscious mind limits us for a reason, and it does limit us. But the reason is we are capable of so much more than we think we are, than we can do physically, that we can injure ourselves. So, uh,
Those
one,
are some powerful examples. Hmm.
yes, another powerful example, which is quoted in almost everybody's book, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, etc., is multiple personality disorder. That is the same person changes personality, and not only the personality changes, but they can develop a scar, their IQ changes, uh, even eye color has been
Mm.
uh, recorded changing.
Wow. I mean, those are some powerful examples of just the power of the subconscious and what it can do. I mean, that's really awesome, Harry, I tell you. Mm. So what about health? Everybody's concerned about health and health care, and I don't know what the statistics are, but every day so many people become baby boomers, and so everybody's trying to stay young and vibrant. How can the subconscious affect our health?
Oh, in many ways. But I already mentioned the psychoneuroimmunology science, where as conscious mind, subconscious mind talks to every cell, and it talks back. There have been some very interesting experiments.
Mm-hmm.
One was conducted by Professor Ellen Langer, I believe, of MIT. This was done a couple of decades ago, and it's, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
recently has been getting publicity, and I think she's repeating it now because it was kind of ignored at the time. But she took 100 people, 70 years old, took them to an isolated resort, and had them act as if, talk as if it was 20 years ago. And she played old records, old TV programs, and pardon me, I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
And they measured them physically and mentally, or physiologically, before and after. And in every test, in every person, they measured younger,
Mm.
physically and mentally. And I mean, that is
That's
pretty indicative
amazing.
of what the subconscious mind can do.
Right, right. And so I love it when you say, and Harry, if you need to get you some water, you can take you a sip of water. I know here in Atlanta, the pollen has been just all over the place, so people are coughing and everything. I love it when you said the mind talks to every cell and the cells talk back. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yes, and the important thing, I don't know if I mentioned it, but uh, positive thoughts send out these certain neurotransmitters that enhance your immune system. And on the other hand, negative thoughts tend to um, um, the opposite.
Hmm.
They shut it down. So things like hugs are good for you. They really are. They make you feel better. There was a couple of months ago, there were a couple of running articles in the New York Times about drug companies are developing new drugs to enhance your immune system. Well, that's great, and I hope they're successful. But really, all you have to do is think positively, be a positive person, and enhance your immune system. There's if we have time, I have my favorite story is about this subject, and you remember the PBS series on Dr. Harriet, James Harriet,
Hmm.
all pictures great and small, all the quaint little stories in Yorkshire, England, and he was a veterinarian, and one day he visited this farm, and he saw a ewe, um, EWE, of course, ewe,
Hmm.
very distressed, had an infection, and Harriet wanted to take care of the ewe, and the farmer said, "No, I don't want to spend the money on her. She's going to die anyway." So Harriet said, "Well, let me give her some vitamins." What he did was he attempted to euthanize her because she was in such distress. Well, a couple of weeks later, we ran into the farmer in the pub, and the farmer said those vitamins were a miracle. He said that you slept for 3 or 4 days, and when she woke up, she was perfectly healthy. Well, Harriet was astounded, but later he thought about it and he realized what happened. She had this serious infection. She was in pain. Was fearful. She was afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and it shut down her immune system. So the infection flourished. But as soon as she was put to sleep, there was no pain, no anxiety, and so it allowed her immune system to kick into gear, and she cured herself. And so that's why it's important to be positive, think positive. Uh, what you think is extremely important.
Wow. That's awesome. I'm intrigued by the subconscious, and I reread your book again this week, and I'm just saying we're going to give listeners an opportunity to find out your website, but you've got to get this book. I mean, it's just one of the books that you must have. So, Harry, basically, what is your message?
Well, I have three kingpins that I like to stress,
Okay.
and one is the subconscious is so different, which we've already discussed. But you have to realize that, and you have to realize you can't divorce your subconscious mind. You are married to it for life. You have to learn to get along and to work together. Uh, just a couple of things that emphasize the difference. The subconscious mind is bigger. The subconscious mind communicates differently than we do, or our conscious mind. We communicate right now. We're communicating in words.
Right.
Subconscious mind communicates in images,
Mm.
emotions. It's not logical, which always reminds me of TV ads, but that's another subject. The subconscious mind is not mature. Hopefully, our conscious minds are mature. Time is different. The subconscious mind only operates in the now, where the conscious,
Mm.
of course, we have the future, the past, and the present. The important point is the functions. The voluntary functions, of course, are controlled by the conscious mind, but there are many, many, many more involuntary functions in our body, all controlled by the subconscious, which can do trillions of things at one time,
Mm.
whereas the conscious mind can only do one thing at a time. That brings us back to sports, which you cannot go through a complex physical uh, motion like swinging a golf club using the conscious mind and swing smoothly and powerfully. You have to do it with a subconscious mind. Anyway, back to differences. Memory, of course, the memory of the conscious mind is short. Memory of the subconscious mind, believe it or not, is essentially infinite. It
Mm.
can remember and does remember everything. The subconscious mind doesn't sleep, and the important thing is many people are being led by the subconscious mind, which is immature, may have some counterproductive habits, whereas what you want to do is learn how to make the subconscious mind your genie and have your conscious mind be the leader.
Wow. Harry,
So
when you said the subconscious mind, you know, I got that. As I was walking one day listening to you, one of our old recordings, when you said it's most impacted by images, etc. And I realized why visualization is so powerful.
visualization is powerful, and affirmations, which is the third kingdom
Uh-huh.
actually, and that is those methods are really relatively easy. I mean, so many books, read it, just have faith, visualize. But the thing is, if you don't know how your subconscious mind works and the laws that it obeys, you're very likely not going to be successful. You
Wow.
must understand that.
Wow. Well, tell us, how does it work? Give us some examples.
Well, it works. There's some important things. One is it's literal. It takes things literally.
Yeah.
Like when you say, "Oh, my aching back," you don't mean you have an aching back. You don't want an aching back, but that's a message. You're telling your subconscious mind, "Hey, my back's aching. I want an aching back." Or some people say, "Oh, that makes me sick." Well, if you say it once, that isn't going to have any effect. But if you say it over and over again, and if you say it with emotion, it's liable to make you sick. Your subconscious mind never sleeps, so you can put it to work 24 hours a day. It accepts everything as real and true.
Mm,
So again, be careful of what you think. Only think of yourself as you want yourself to be. You know, I just read something very interesting during the football uh,
mm-hmm.
uh, playoffs, and that is one of those moments. The quarterback of the Patriots, anyway, his physical and mental coach is quoted as saying, "Where concentration goes, energy flows.
Mm.
That's what grows." So what you think about most of the time, where your energy goes, is what you're going to get. So
That's
be careful
powerful. Tom Brady of
for
the
Tom
Patriots.
Brady, of course.
Right, right. I mean, Harry, as you're talking, I'm just, when you said it doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, it brings back to my mind a client who I had who was extremely beautiful, but she had been told, "Ooh, you're ugly, you're stupid," and she was really smart, but she said that all of the time, and so that became real to her, even though it wasn't true.
One of the laws of the subconscious mind is it can only hold one concept as true and binding on a particular subject.
Hmm.
So if you think you are not beautiful, you think you're not popular, if that is the concept in your subconscious, no matter how beautiful or talented you are, that's the way you act. And you have to overcome that. Now, we don't forget anything. Anything that's in the subconscious is ingrained. It's there. But if it only accepts one concept as binding, you overpower it with another concept, one where you realize you are beautiful, you are talented, you etc. And you ingrain your subconscious mind with that new concept until one day that's the binding concept, and that takes over. Maxwell Maltz wrote a seminal book. Uh, so again, I'm not thinking of it of,
Mm-hmm.
of of the name, but he found that when he conducted surgery, he was a plastic surgeon, and when he took somebody who had very, let's say, grotesque features, and he made them a good-looking person, sometimes they changed, sometimes they didn't, and he figured out it was mental, not physical. It's
Wow.
our attitude, what we radiate from the inside. So we have to feed that image that into the subconscious.
So, Harry, I've heard you talk about that when you program or reprogram your subconscious, that it has to be done in the alpha state. What do you mean by that?
The alpha state, there are essentially four states of mind.
Okay.
There's the awake state, which I hope is what we're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
where we're very aware of everything around us. We had to be to survive familiar all these years. And then if you relax and kind of daydream, you drop into the alpha state, which is a normal state. Everybody goes into it, in and out, all the time during the day. You just don't recognize it, unless maybe you're really daydreaming and staring at the wall. And then if you and then if you drop down farther, you go to sleep. That's the delta state. In between the alpha and the delta is called the theta state, which is a very narrow range, but is an important range because that is where we are creative, where we understand, we solve problems. We can come back to that because that is so interesting. I have some examples of problem solving that has happened to me. But back to the main thing. The alpha state is the doorway to the subconscious mind. It's like the difference between an incandescent bulb and a laser. If you talk to your subconscious mind, and attempt to reprogram it, in that when you're in a conscious state, it's going to be counterproductive because your conscious mind it has that little voice on your shoulder. Oh yeah, sure, you can do that. No way, you've never done that before. You can't do it again. It has that little voice that keeps.
Right.
But if we just kind of relax, go into that daydreamy state, and then visualize what we want, then we are in that alpha state, and we're talking to our subconscious mind. Now, once you do that and you come out, forget it. Don't think about it in the awake state, because it can negate. It can work against. So that's the importance of the alpha state. And very few people or books or teachers mention that, but it's a thing. You have to be aware of doing your programming in the alpha state. And when you do that, like I said, it's like a laser. You're focused, and you can program your subconscious mind in a very short time. In other words, we talked about the woman with the low self-esteem. And let's say she's 30 years old, 30 years of negative programming, but she can overcome that in a very short time. And people ask me, well, how long does it take? Well, everybody's different. There is no answer to that. It could take a day. It could take a couple of weeks, maybe a month. Who knows? But it does. You can change it.
And I'm using that, and I remember you said that. And for me, what works best is in the evenings, just before I go to sleep, I really get myself. I listen to music, put headphones on, and get really relaxed. And then I just visualize and feel exactly what I desire, and it's a very powerful process. And you taught me about entering into that alpha state. That's awesome.
Yes, remember, it goes from the awake state to alpha to theta to delta to sleep. So when you go to sleep at night, you're going through the alpha state. So it's a good chance to program your subconscious mind, and it's a terrible time to think of something you're worrying about. Many people go to bed worrying about what's happening during the day. You're programming for the thing that you don't want to happen.
So
So,
true. And you talked a little bit about it's always seeking goals. So when people write down their goals, should they just write them down and then visualize them? What should they do with the goals that they have?
well, I'd suggest just writing them down and putting them away, And then when you're relaxed and, let yourself kind of daydream, pull them out and just glance over them. And then put them away again. Don't think of them. That's one way. Of course, if you're really working on an affirmation, then it's a little different. You spend some more time with each affirmation. But I used to, I used to. I'm 84. I kind of take things for granted now. But I've always used to write down, keep track of my goals. And, I can't think of anything that didn't come about. It works. It's just keep your mind focused, or get your mind working on the goal that you want, and it will come about.
So true. Well, what about some of the laws of the subconscious? You have any examples of that?
Well, one of the important ones is the present tense. So many affirmations are like, I will be affluent, I will get better, I will be healthy. Well, you've already got your wish, because tomorrow you will be better, but you're not better. You always will be better. You remember, your subconscious only works in the now, the present. So you have to word your affirmations, think of do your visualizations in the present. I will is the same thing as saying I'm not. As if I say I will be better, you're admitting you're not better. But what you want to do is give the goal to your subconscious in the present tense, which means you have to visualize it and know that you are already better.
And what about what is the law about accepting only one dominant concept? What does that mean?
Well, we talked about that in the self, and some people are double-minded. In other words, let's say somebody's 20 pounds overweight and they want to lose some weight. So they write out an affirmation and they go through the ritual of repeating it every day in the alpha state, or they're repeating it. But if their subconscious mind has a concept that they are overweight, in other words, the conscious mind says, I'm not overweight. The subconscious mind says, let me rephrase that. They're eating for a gratification of that's a better example. They're eating for gratification, and so they want to change that habit. But it has to be the same affirmation in the conscious mind as the subconscious mind. And I'm not being very clear about that.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. That's
But
and
you have to be agreement.
that's why many times people consciously want abundance and wealth, but that subconscious said, "Oh no, you've been poor all of your life. Your mama was poor, your daddy was poor. Look at your life, you living paycheck to paycheck." But consciously they're saying, "I'm wealthy, I'm rich, etc."
Exactly. Right. So you
Wow.
have to change that concept in the subconscious mind so you can become successful.
What about willpower?
Well, that's the same thing. The will, what people don't realize is that the will is in the conscious mind. I will myself to be wealthy. I will myself to be a good golfer. But the power is in the subconscious mind. If the subconscious mind has a different concept, then you are double-minded. You have to change that concept in the subconscious. And that's one of the many methods And two, you've mentioned visualization or using an affirmation, doing it in the alpha state and changing that concept in the subconscious, and then you become single-minded and you will be successful.
Yeah. Expound on expectation. I've been doing a lot of study about that lady and have been intrigued by the power of expectation.
What the subconscious mind, what you expect to happen usually comes about. So the epitome of expectation is in placebos. I'm sure everybody's heard of placebo,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pill identical to the real pill, but it's nothing but a sugar pill. It has no medical benefit whatsoever. However, in study after study, without exception, when they have different groups, and one group gets the placebo, one group gets the new drug, at least at least 33% of the people who get the placebo get the same benefits as those who get the real drug,
Mm.
which really complicates drug testing because most drugs are not 100%. In fact, there's a article in Psychology Today about a decade ago. I have it on file someplace, but I won't mention the drug. But it makes people feel better for people who have had anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you really analyze the data, and this was in the magazine, and you look at the influence of the placebo, the drug really can't be proved to be effective, and it has side effects. So, placebos are a very important part of testing, and they explain the power of expectation. And there was placebos also are dependent on the influence generated when you give the drug. In other words, if a nurse gives a drug, that's one thing. If the doctor gives a drug, that 33% can jump to a much higher level. If you give an injection rather than a pill, the power of expectation goes up. And one doctor claims that the power of expectation can be as high as 90%.
Wow. That is so. Well, Harry, every day I say out loud and believe something good is going to happen to me today. I
That's
I say
wonderful. You're
that, and I
expecting something
say,
good.
and it always does. I look for it. I expect it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder what it is, and just wow, just expecting, changing what we expect. So you gave some easy examples of how we can really reprogram our subconscious. You talked about. Um, just affirmations and visualizations. What other examples can you share, some easy methods that we could use?
Well, a couple of real simple ones. The first one is one-word affirmation.
Mm.
And usually an affirmation, when I write an affirmation, it's several pages
Mm-hmm.
and takes maybe 10 minutes. I cover all bases. But you can use a one-word affirmation because words have two meanings. One is a definition. In other words, if I would say mother, the definition of mother is a female parent. That describes
Mm-hmm.
it, defines it. But the connotation that it brings up has many connotations, and all those connotations are different in everybody. So if I was to hit my finger with a hammer, and I say "ouch," well, ouch. What does that bring up? Pain. I know that
Mm-hmm.
it's associated with pain. Well, pain is not what I want. So I would think of numb rather as a one-word affirmation. A favorite affirmation of mine is I used to, when I was working, I'd come into my office and there'd be a stack of phone calls to return. There'd be I had two tables and a desk in my office. At least one table would be full of reports that I was writing, and I'd come in and think, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to get all this done?" And of course, you're giving yourself an affirmation, or you're saying, "Oh, I'll never get through this." Well, that's a terrible affirmation to give yourself. You know you're going to have to do it. You know you're going to do it. So just say done. Done,
Mm.
and get to it. Get right on it. So one-word affirmations work very well. Another method, which was one of my favorites, is called the crock pot. And you know what that is. It's a slow
Mhm.
cooker. You get up in the morning, you throw some vegetables and meat in the crock pot, and you put it away and forget about it. Come back in the evening, and your dinner's ready. Well, the subconscious is the same thing. Remember, it doesn't sleep. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you turn over a problem to your subconscious, and then you forget about it. And then sometime these little ideas will turn up. Solutions to your problems will just pop into your head. Uh, there's a Reverend Butterworth who had a radio program in New York, used to say that he never prepared a sermon. I mean, my goodness, I would have all kinds of anxiety going
Right.
into a radio program without preparing. But what he did is he'd take a piece of paper and he'd say, okay, the sermon for such and such a date, and he'd write down all his ideas, and then he'd put it in a drawer. Well, that's turning it over to his subconscious mind in the crock pot. And during the interim, the subconscious mind is organizing this sermon, collecting ideas as they occur. And so it really isn't quite spontaneous.
Wow. Well, we have about 5 minutes left, and I want you to share about the Genie Within Productions. How can people get your book? How can they get your conditioning CDs and anything else that you have to offer?
Certainly, I'd be glad to. Well, of course, the book, as you mentioned, The Genie Within Your Subconscious Mind, How It Works and How to Use It, is available in paperback, in ebook, and audio, all available on Amazon.com.
Mhm.
The audio book is also on Audible and iTunes. The conditioning CDs are available on my website, which is thegeniewithin.net. And if it isn't already, it can also be .com. But you do the geniewithin.net. And I have all the exercises in the book on one CD, and except for health. I have a
Mhm.
separate CD for health. I think that is so important. You know, everything else is kind of insignificant if you don't have your health. I
So
have a
true.
metronome CD, which is nothing more than a clicking sound that takes you into alpha or theta. So just to relax, or as background when you're doing affirmations. Uh, I was writing a monthly newsletter, but the distribution got so large, I decided I just put it in an ebook.
Mhm.
So there is The Genie Within, the Essays, which is an ebook available on Amazon.com for a uh, huge 99 cents. Yeah. Yeah, but there are some very good tips in it, some very interesting subjects on exercise and using the subconscious mind. And incidentally, I have written some books on applying sports or the principles of the subconscious mind to sports, in particular pickleball, which is a sport I play now, and tennis, which I used to play,
Mhm.
and They are available on Amazon.com. But if you're not a tennis player or a pickleball player, still they are still valuable to you. All you have to do is substitute another word for, because the principles are the same. And there are books on each one, and the CD on the tennis. The CD, if we have time, just to mention briefly,
Mm-hmm.
getting into the zone is the goal of every athlete. It happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but when you're in the zone, you're completely focused. Time seems to slow down, and you play at the very peak of your skill. Well, to do that, you have to go into the alpha state, maintain that state while you're playing, and that's what this CD does. It conditions your mind to go into the zone. So
Wow.
that is what I have available.
I tell you, Harry, you are amazing. I'm in awe just listening to you. And if you never heard him before, I'm going to strongly encourage that you go to his website right now. Stop what you're doing, or go to Amazon and really get his books and his ebooks and everything else, his conditioning CDs. And man, just work with that and just see how much your life changes. And Harry, I just want to say, Think, Believe, and Manifest Talk Show. You can visit my website at fulfillingyourpurpose.com. And as I say every Sunday, remember this: God loves you. I love you, and the best is yet to come.